Hey guys, Automatic Garage back today. Me and Gary are all greasy because we're working on, this is probably the dirtiest 7.3 I've ever turned wrenches on. It's a late 99 450, and I think it's 300 and something thousand miles. 342,000 miles is what it's got on it. We've worked on this truck a lot over the last few years. The injectors have progressively gotten worse. We replaced the passenger side bank a year or so ago probably, and I told him he really needed to do all of them then. He opted not to, and of course those progressively got worse also. And the main thing that we are fighting with this truck is I think it had really been neglected on oil changes prior to him buying it. And one of the injectors that we also put in about a year or so ago, we're starting to get a contribution code on it also, so we went on and we're replacing it again because it's under warranty. But let me turn around here and show you what we're working with. So on this whole entire long punch list on this truck, we had exhaust manifolds leaking, we had an oil cooler leaking, we had up pipes that were leaking, we had a high pressure oil pump that was dumping oil out everywhere, we had a fuel bowl that was leaking, we had 4 bad injectors. Is that everything? I think yeah, we did that, yeah, all that. So I wasn't planning on making a video on this, but the more we dug into this and the dirtier stuff was and the more stuff I was running into, I decided we'd make a video. So we got our exhaust manifolds off, and those 2 bolts right there at the back, those were already broke off prior to us taking it apart. And I had to cut 3 of the other studs because they were froze up. I didn't want to snap them off, so we cut them right behind the manifolds. And the rest of them came out just with some penetrant on them. But to get those out, what you do is you just weld a nut onto the stud. One of these was flush with the block. I think this is the one, and it's a little off center, but it was not flush with the block. It was probably broke off about an 1/8 inch down in the hole, and I had to build weld up, and then we chased those threads also after that to make sure they were good. So we got new bolts coming for those. I used the Dorman exhaust manifolds on these, never had an issue with them. I'm not a giant fan of Dorman. So, some of their parts are okay to use, and that's one of them. We got our oil cooler off already, which I do have a video on doing oil coolers. I have a video on doing the exhaust manifolds alone also, but we've already pressure washed this. We got it busted apart. We're doing the full force diesel up pipes, the bellowed up pipes, high flow outlet, the EBPV deleted pedestal, and we're doing the full force diesel compressor wheel. Because you can see that one has seen better days. Now, believe it or not, this turbo does not have any excessive shaft play. Everything feels normal about it, so we're just going to put the wheel on there. This is a tow pig for the most part. We're doing a new injector harness on the side that we had not done injectors on previously. We got diesel sight O-rings coming for the high pressure oil pump to reseal that. We're using the Felpro on the oil cooler, and then we also have a diesel sight reseal for the fuel bowl. But let me get up here and show you the mess we're dealing with. So everything is apart. Where'd my light go? I think I set it on the cart there behind you. But you can see what we're working with down here. It's just a mess. And all of this right here is what all was just laying down in the valley. Oh, the other cool part, when we took it apart, so when I started to remove the high pressure oil pump, the solenoid was just flopping around. It still had the top hat on it, but the Tenderman nut was just laying out on the bottom and all that goo that I found when I was cleaning that out. So of course that's getting resealed with the pump, and we'll just put a new Tenderman nut on that, because believe it or not, we weren't having any IPR issues. The truck would crank right up sitting. We just had cylinders that weren't doing much because the injectors were so bad. And like I said, it's because of neglected oil changes. I sprayed some brake cleaner up through the oil drain to see what I could get out, just spraying some up in there when I had the plug out, and just all kind of sludge and crap was coming out of the bottom of this motor. And I think that's why we already have a contribution code for one that we had replaced about a year ago. So we're brake cleaning everything while we got the valve covers off, letting it all wash down to the pan. We're gonna pull the plug again. Probably going to do that a whole lot more, try to get this motor as clean as we can. Since we have so much stuff open and we're resealing the oil cooler, all that's going to be clean. Doing the high pressure oil pump so the reservoir is empty. The high pressure oil pump will be empty. We replaced those injectors on this side and the one on this side, so all that oil dumped out of the rails. So I feel like we're going to have a much better, cleaner start than we had before, because we got so much stuff open and cleaning out so much of the system. New pedestal. We'll get all the oil out of the turbo while we're doing that too, and re-oil it with some clean oil before we put it on. But yeah, we're basically just going through and fixing the tow pig here, and fixing a whole bunch of oil leaks. We also have to address this also. I wish I could have shown y'all that earlier. This was just mounted up with a big bunch of goo of RTV sealant to keep all those bare wires that you see there from making contact. So we're going to put a new end on this side when we do the new harness on there also. But yeah, this isn't necessarily going to be a step-by-step, because I have one on doing the fuel ball, I have one on doing the oil cooler, I have one on doing the exhaust manifolds, and one on doing up pipes and turbo stuff. But we're going to get this all fixed, fix the oil leaks, and have it running right where it can actually tow again, because she was down on power with all this going on. All right, so this is how far a whole case of brake cleaner got us on cleaning this up, and I would say it looks a hell of a lot better. Not all caked up in grease. Brake cleaner and a wire bristle brush. Spray it some, scrub it, spray it, scrub it. And when we get this all together, what we'll do is we'll pour a bucket of hot water all in the valley once the motor's together and running, with some purple power in it, because this is a manual shift truck and all this is getting all over that clutch disc back there. And what you'll have a lot of times is a slipping clutch when you do all this much cleaning as we've done here. And I mean, there's really no other way to do it. That's what that drain is for back there in the back. But that purple power will get all over the clutch, degrease it, and I'll do that twice, let it sit in between times, and then do a last, just a bucket of hot water and let that go through there. That way we don't mess this clutch up and have him have a clutch that's slipping. We've got our oil cooler all apart back here, and this is the hardest one I've ever had to get apart. You can see what happened to the pry tabs here. She was really stuck, and these are super dry. I think that's why it was so hard to come apart. So I'm gonna get all these O-rings off of here now. This has just been pressure washed, but we're actually gonna degrease it, put it in the parts washer now, and get this all ready for reassembly. And of course, make sure that all of our tubes, you'll be able to see through them. Make sure there's nothing stuck in there. A lot of times, if somebody's done messy work or gooped something up with RTV in the system at some point, you'll get some little pieces of stuff or O-rings or sealant or something blocking a couple of these up. We'll make sure they're all clear before we put it back together. All right, we got our oil cooler all cleaned up, all degreased inside and out. Got our O-rings on, everything's greased up. I press this end on using the press there, and then I mount this end on the truck, and I use a pry bar and I push it into this cup here, and then stick a bolt in here, get it hand started, and that's how I do the oil cooler. So all I have to do is get this one mounted up with the new gaskets. Here's our Felpro kit right here that we use, and get both in, get this bolted up, and then like I said, force that into that one and torque it all down. All right, we got our surfaces all cleaned up for our exhaust manifolds. We got our new manifolds out of the box with our Felpro composite gaskets that go with it. Once again, all cleaned up there. We are waiting on the new bolts to come in. I'm just going to get these hanging with 2 of the old bolts per each side, and then when the new bolts get here, hopefully tomorrow, I'll just zip them in one at a time and then go through the torque sequence, just trying to get something done because we're waiting on other parts to show up, trying to be productive. So let me get these hanging on here. All right, we got our new exhaust manifolds on and all torqued down. We got our new turbo pedestal on and torqued down, new O-rings and all that on there. High pressure oil pump has been resealed, been sitting here on the table for 24 hours, letting the green Loctite all set up. We got our fuel bowl all resealed also. Got a new gasket for the high pressure pump, got our bolts cleaned up. So we're getting ready to throw this on, and then we'll throw our fuel bowl on. We also have a new exhaust back pressure sensor tube and sensor, and I got a new nipple that goes in the exhaust manifold there because all that was so rusty and corroded up and messed up. So we're going all new with that. So let me get these 2 items on, and whenever you do this, make sure that you get your fuel sleeves for your fuel lines because you'll have to replace them. All right, we got our high pressure oil pump back in, torqued down, High pressure line's hooked back up. Fuel bowl that's been all resealed with new fuel sleeves and all that in. New fuel filter cap and fuel filter. We went on and replaced the power steering pump and the high pressure line also because the pump was leaking at the seal and that line looked a little rough, so we went on and swapped that out. Also, to fix that leak, we got our EBP sensor, the plates put back on with some RTV sealant, new tube, tight now going to the exhaust manifold. We got our up pipes assembled and just barely got the bolts started down to the exhaust manifolds. Gary disassembled our turbo here, put the new high flow outlet on it, put the new billet compressor wheel on here, the full force diesel wicked wheel 2 is what that is. And we got rid of this one. Looks like somebody's been processing some food with it or something. And clean that up. We'll be putting that back on. And then we can pretty much rock and roll because we'll be able to spin the motor over, get any residual oil or anything out of each cylinder, put the glow plugs in, torque them down, put the new injector harness on the driver's side. I still got to fix that pigtail for the injector harness. And that'll be it, other than charge air pipes and little stuff like that and filling it up with fluids. And then we'll crank this thing up, have all these oil leaks fixed, have it running much smoother. It'll have more power because we don't have all these exhaust leaks and all that going on with it. So I'm tired of working on this greasy truck. Even though we've cleaned so much stuff, there's so much nastiness still. All right, we got this old greasy girl all put back together, and I opted to just go on and finish everything. I don't know why it wouldn't run right with the new injectors it's got in and everything else, but I went on and opted to put everything together. The only thing that's temporary is this air intake from the adapter right there for the CCV to the turbo. If you look, it's all gobbed up with RTV and it had tape around it, so that boot is torn. So we're not going to drive the truck that way. We're going to order him another one tomorrow in the morning, but this is just for cranking up purposes here. But we're going to fire this thing up. Hopefully the batteries are going to crank it up. We're going to have extremely a long start because reservoir's empty, high pressure oil pump's empty. We pulled 5 of the 8 injectors, so all that's empty. Oil cooler's empty. We got a lot of priming to do here, and I am absolutely nasty. This automatic is going to make me have to hose off outside before I can come inside and work on this greasy old 7.3 here. We put a new map line on there also. Old one was old, dry, cracked up. Yeah, anyways, makes us to hear this thing run. It should sound a heck of a lot better. I guess I mentioned earlier we did do a new power steering pump and high pressure line to that too because it was leaking also. So we should have every possible leak taken care of. The only other thing that might need attention is the dipstick adapter that goes into the oil pan. It felt tight when I messed with it down there, but if we end up having a leak on that, we'll end up buying that new aluminum adapter and putting that in there. We did a lot of brake cleaning under the valve covers with the drain plug out. Let that all drain down. I think we got a lot of the sludge and crap out of this motor since we took so many components off that have oil flowing through it and did that cleaning. It should be in much better shape than it was in. So let's try to fire this thing up. All right, so we finally got it cranked up after I went, took a shower and ate some dinner because these batteries are so daggum weak in this truck. I had to let them charge, and then I still had to put it on 200 amp to get it to crank up. A little smoky in here, but we're burning all the oil out of the cylinders and everything that got in there from doing the injectors. She runs much smoother than she did. And I did give the customer a warning. I said, hey, this has got 300,000 miles on it. I said, we probably got some weak cylinders on here too. Do you want to do a compression test? And he just wanted to go on and fix everything that could be fixed, regardless if we had some weak cylinders or not. So we'll let it all warm up, get the air out of the system. We'll drive it in the morning and see how much more improved it is. I would think it's going to be a whole lot better than it was. We'll see. So I totally jinxed myself because I mentioned it earlier. Not leaking any oil, valley's all dry, except for that little funnel right there, which is coming right off the side of the oil pan where the dipstick adapter is. It's coming right out of there. So we got to address that. When I first saw it under the truck, I was thinking it might be the rear mains leaking, but we got to put a dipstick adapter on it. All right, so we're back on the 450, got it back on the lift. We're gonna fix the one last oil leak with this dipstick adapter. This is not the strictly diesel one, this is the cheap Amazon one. So I talked over with the customer, we're gonna give this a try. Looks exactly like the strictly diesel one pretty much. Comes with pretty good directions, so we're gonna get this thrown on here and see is it as good as the one that costs 10 times the price. All right, we got our starter off, so now I'm gonna get my scraper. I'm gonna get all that crustiness and nastiness off, and I think part of our problem is you can see one of the O-rings is pushed out right there to begin with, but we're gonna go on and put this adapter on anyways. So I'll get that cleaned up, and I gotta get the nut off that holds the dipstick on up there on the valve cover so that we'll be able to work it out of there. So I'm gonna do those two things, and then we'll get down to pulling this thing off. All right, so we got the nut off. We scraped around it before we took the nut off, and then you want to get anything and everything off of that adapter right there that you can, because its new home is going to be in the bottom of your oil pan. So whatever grit, grime, RTV sealant, whatever's on it is going to be down there in the oil pan. It could get loose and possibly get sucked up against the pickup. So we're going to get all that little bit of remnants that you see there of RTV that was all smeared around this one, and some more of that gunk off, and then we'll show you all dropping it down in the pan. And the idea is you want it to be back here in the pan, so when you let it loose, you're going to go in the pan and stick it back here as far as you can before you release your vice grips or whatever, and let it fall straight down back here. So there should be an O-ring on the inside of this. This one, as you can see, does not have an O-ring on it. It's already gone. It's already made its home in the bottom of the oil pan, because if it was intact with this having been vice grip the whole time, there's no way it's going to fall off. So it's already fallen off. And it's down in there, and that's probably why it was leaking so bad to begin with anyway. So now that we got it cleaned up, we got all the RTV off of it, we're gonna drop this down in the pan, and then we'll work on cleaning this surface up right here where the new one's gonna seal, and then we can put it in and tighten it up. All right, so we dropped the adapter down. We did hear it go all the way down and hit the bottom down here. We took a Scotch-Brite pad and cleaned all up there around the oil pan now. We got the new adapter ready to go in. Pulled the one bolt out that doesn't have the weld on the end of it so that you can fish it in the pan, turn it, get your other bolt started in. So if you're doing this on an OBS truck, the adapter is going to end up pointing like straight up like that. On a Super Duty, it's going to be angled forward. You have the two notches on the back just like you do with your factory adapter. So let me get that in, and then we'll get this torqued down. All right, we got the dipstick adapter all in, torqued to 120 inch-pounds. It looks like it pulled up really good against the oil pan. We got our new O-ring on the dipstick here, put a little bit of grease on it. We're now going to put that into the adapter, and then we can go put our nut back on the valve cover that holds the dipstick up there. We'll have this part licked. We can put the starter back on there. All right, so we've been idling about 15, 20 minutes now. It is up to temp. We got no oil leaks or anything, which when we first put this together, after 5 minutes of idling, it was starting to ooze already. So that has cured that problem. I'm going to put our inner fender wells back in. I've got to go run some errands, so I'm going to drive this anyways. We'll pull it back in here in the shop when we're done in a clean spot. Let it idle for a minute, make sure there's no drips, shut it off, let it sit here for about an hour, make sure there's no drips, because our whole entire goal was to cure all of our engine leaks on this whole entire motor. Which between the power steering pump and the motor, it was leaking a significant amount of oil everywhere. So only thing I had left to do, other than those inner fender wells, he requested a muffler, so we're going to put a muffler on here and quiet this down a little bit. All right, so she's been running almost an hour altogether. I just went and ran some errands, had to go to the bank, hadn't cut her off at all. Initially left, the clutch was slipping just a little bit from all that oil and grease and crap that went down through the bell housing while we were doing the high pressure pump and cleaning the valley out and all that. So I drove it back, mixed a real stout gallon of real hot water and Purple Power, and poured it down in there, waited a couple minutes, did another one, waited a couple minutes, and then poured just a gallon of straight hot water down in there. And that seemed to have cured the problem. The clutch material just got a bunch of grease and crap on it, so we got that off. But it's been sitting here. You can see the air conditioner still dripping back there. And that's the only thing dripping. Not leaking a drop of anything anymore. And I drove it pretty hard. And it drives a lot smoother than it used to. I'm pretty happy with it. It does drive like a 7.3 with 340,000 miles of pretty hard miles on it. But she'll work still. I think we've got a cylinder that's probably a little down on compression, but taking all that into consideration, it runs great. It's going to do what he needs it to do. and I think he's going to be happy with it. It's got a drive shaft that needs to be rebuilt, not because of the U-joints, but the splines are wore out in it. These manual shift trucks, the splines were out on them a whole lot of times, and that needs to be done on that because you get over about 60 or 65 and it starts vibrating real bad. Bubba, what are we doing today?
We'll fix Tracy's rear end.
For those of you that follow the channel, this is the truck we had to go rescue late at night with the locating pin that's sheared off over here on the passenger side. Bubba, what are we doing?
Yeah, everything's off, Trace. We are rescuing a faithful customer.
Very faithful customer in his F450.
That we just finished.
He pulling a load. Leaf spring doesn't come off the perch. Bent the U-bolts. Pulled the drive shaft out. We got it held up with baling wire right now. The lower leaf came out. U-bolts moved and the axle's clearly off center. And he had a heavy load on here, so we were taking the axle all the way down. We're going to replace both locating pins on both sides, new U-bolts. Then we got a new drive shaft too, because the drive shaft came off when this happened and goofed it all up. So that's what we're doing today. And we didn't wrap up this video on resealing everything on this truck, so we're just going to kind of make this part of that and get it back on the road. All right, so we took a trip to town, got us some new U-bolts here. 4 U-bolts, and I went on and got 4 locating pins, so I'll have 2 on the shelf in the future there, which is a 7/16. So we're going to get these leaf springs all put back together. We clamped this side so the holes would stay lined up, and then we'll be able to set it back down on the axle, put our U-bolts on, torque all that down, and hook everything else back up, including the drive shaft, which we got new bolts coming from forward for where the drive shaft goes to the transmission. And then we'll have this part licked, and we're doing brake pads on the front. All right, we got our new center and pin bolts in. Leaf springs are all together. We're gonna set it down on the axle now, get it centered up, put our new U-bolts in. We're just gonna get it tightened up to where we can raise the truck up, and then we'll actually torque it, or we can stand up and do a little bit better job torquing it. So we finished up the 450, and we forgot to shoot an ending to this video of resealing everything, but it was back for doing this axle. Anyways, it's driving great. It's not leaking a drop of anything. We just took it on a good 10-minute, 15-minute spirited drive. Not a drop of anything leaking anymore. New drive shaft worked out great. It had a pretty bad vibration in the past when you drove it, which those splines were really wore on the drive shaft. So it's kind of good it got messed up with the axle because it corrected that problem. Also, we got new brakes on the front with severe duty pads on it, which are doing great. Also, air is cooling great on it. I think the next thing it will need in the future, acts like the clutch is getting a little bit tired in it, which it did have a whole lot of oil leaking on it in the past, so it's probably not helping. The disc probably has a whole lot of oil soaked up in it, which is not helping, and it tows very heavy all the time. But yeah, it's all together. Glad it's fixed. All right, guys, hope y'all enjoyed the video on getting this greasy old 450 fixed, as far as fixing all the leaks that motor had on it, from exhaust leaks to oil cooler leaks, leaking oil everywhere, power steering leaks, all that. Came back to correct the axle. We actually forgot to shoot an ending of the video. That's why we went on and included that in there, because we just made that ending for it. So hope you enjoy getting this all straightened out and getting it back on the road to work like it's meant to do. If you enjoyed this video, or if other videos have helped you out, or you want to help support content like this that we create on the channel here, go consider visiting our Patreon, becoming a member of that. We'd appreciate that if you wanted to do that. We got merch on our website, automedicgarage.com. That's also where you would get our contact information if you're interested in having us work on your truck. Go follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook also. A whole lot of content on the channel here. Powerstroke, Cummins, Ford content. We appreciate all the support y'all give us. This is Auto Medic Garage signing out. We'll holler at y'all later.